Hello there. Welcome to another episode of Chat and Chew. My name is JeJe Noval, and I'm a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and faculty at Loma Linda University. Today, my guests are nutrition and dietetic graduate students, and they are going to be talking about a very important topic, breakfast. But before we talk about breakfast, let's get to know them a little bit. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and I'm going to start over there at the end of the sofa. Please tell us your name and where you are from.
Hi, my name is JeJe Noval, a dietetic student at Loma Linda University, and I am from Orange County, California, but currently reside in Redlands, California.
Very nice. So Jasmine, why did you decide to become a dietitian?
I decided to become a dietitian because I really wanted to give people the tools and information to make healthier food choices and learn about the benefits of eating healthier, just to feel better and improve their quality and longevity of life.
Excellent, thank you. And who do we have next to Jasmine?
Hi, I'm Cassie Greenwald. I'm also a dietetic student at Loma Linda. I'm originally from Northern California, but I live in Redlands now.
Nice. Oh, everybody's been living in Redlands. This is cool. Wonderful. So when all is said and done, once you have RDN after your name, what do you plan on doing?
You know, I originally had thought that I wanted to go into sports nutrition.
Okay.
My scope, I'm trying to keep an open mind. I really just see along the same lines as Jasmine. I want to impact as many people as possible.
Yes.
So I'm going to stay open-minded, but lots to do with food and helping people.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And next we have...
Hi, I'm Sloan Blahos, and I'm originally from Northern California as well, more specifically Modesto, California.
Okay.
And I currently reside in Loma Linda, California.
Very good.
Yes.
And with all the schools that have a nutrition program, why did you choose Loma Linda?
I chose Loma Linda primarily because it's a coordinated program, meaning our rotations are involved within the 3 years of schooling. So I figured I would get quality education going that route.
Excellent.
Yes.
I love hearing that. Wonderful. And last but not least, we have...
My name is Bailey Franzen, and I'm originally from Northern Florida, but I currently live in Beaumont, California now.
Very good. So it's just a little drive, not too far. But
Yeah, about 20 minutes without traffic.
very good. And my question to you will be, I'm going to repeat one of the ones I already asked. So I'll twist it just a little bit. What is the heart, the reason, the passion behind choosing a dietetics career?
You know, I think so much about health and wellness has to do with prevention, and I think that the foods that we eat can be a great tool for preventing diseases.
So true.
So really, I just want to be someone that can encourage people to make better choices and to give them the tools to prevent, you know, diseases and things like that. I want people to live their best life.
Yeah, that's the passion that really drives us to do what we are wanting to do. Excellent, ladies. So the topic today is building a better breakfast. And my first question is, can you tell us what a typical American breakfast looks like?
Yes, that's a very important question. So in order to understand if people are consuming adequate breakfast or healthy breakfast, we need to know what they're eating. And so if Americans are eating breakfast, and that's something we'll talk about later in the show, why people may or may not eat breakfast or how many people do eat breakfast.
Right.
If they're eating breakfast, they're typically eating towards convenience. So things that are quick, like Pop-Tarts or fast cereals. You think of that beautiful pink box of donuts in your staff lounge, things like that, okay? Or fast food breakfast sandwiches. If people are sitting down to eat breakfast, they're eating things like the All-American Grand Slam from Denny's or other cafes, where there's a huge stack of pancakes with butter and syrup, and then eggs, hash browns, some sort of sausage or
Kind of making me hungry
bacon.
hearing you say all that.
And
though.
then toast on the side. So all of those things that those breakfasts have in common are they're calorie laden and not very nutrient dense, which means they're high in calories and low in nutrients like vitamins and minerals that are so good for our bodies. These breakfasts are also very high in fat, high in sodium, high in sugar, and like I said, low in essential vitamins and minerals, things that are so important for our bodies.
Yeah.
These breakfasts are also lacking balance, which is something we also hope to talk about later in the show.
Great. Well, that was a good description of what the typical American would eat for breakfast. So we often hear that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. and tell us if there really is any truth to that. Is there or is there not?
So we often hear that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but we want to emphasize that anytime you're going to be having a meal or a snack, that's an opportunity to nourish your body.
There you go.
Breakfast specifically is very important because it's the only meal that you're actually breaking that overnight fast. So when you wake up in the morning and you have a healthy, nutritious breakfast, it'll give you the energy to continue your day and have your brain functioning properly and keeping your blood sugar levels all level, because after fasting all night, not eating, those are low. Your cortisol levels are actually higher, which is a stress hormone in the body. And elevated cortisol levels for too long can actually lead to weight gain. So by having breakfast in the morning, we can kind of bring that level back down. So just overall, eating a nutritious breakfast in the morning can really give you the building blocks for you to continue your day.
Well said. and therefore that's how the name breakfast came about, because you're breaking that fast. People don't realize that when we're sleeping, we're fasting. So good point. Okay, so then my next question is, so eating a healthy breakfast can benefit our weight and physical health, but what about our mental health? So does breakfast influence our mentality?
Breakfast definitely influences our mentality. Our brains function primarily from, well, the preferred energy source for our brains is carbohydrates. So when we're consuming carbohydrate-rich foods at breakfast, which, as we'll state later, it's just as equally important to consume carbohydrates at breakfast. It's just as important to consume fat and protein with those carbohydrates, because if we're only consuming carbohydrates, our blood sugar tends to spike and decline very rapidly. So by incorporating protein and fat with those carbohydrates, it's more of a steady rise and a steady decline. So we'll talk more about that later, but it's very important to have breakfast for our brains. For adults, people tend to report what they know as a brain fog when they're not having breakfast, because they're not as concentrated. When they go to work, they're not as productive, they're less motivated. So it's important for adults to have that breakfast to help them carry out their duties on the job. And it's just as equally important for children to have that breakfast. And the reason why is teachers report that students who show up to school on an empty stomach tend to be more disruptive, tend to be lethargic, and tend to not pay attention as well, and that also influences their physical activity throughout the day. So by having children consume breakfast, they're more likely to succeed in school.
Nice. All those reasons that you mentioned should be motivating our viewers to be eating breakfast if they're not yet, because those are really good reasons. Okay, so the next question is, then from what you've shared, ladies, it does seem pretty evident that it is important to eat breakfast. That's been establishing. But do we know how many Americans really eat breakfast?
That's a very good question, and it's one that researchers actually have studied. So there have been research where they ask people, you know, are you eating breakfast? It's important, and are you eating it? So the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, and referred to as NHANES, in 1999 to 2000, so it was a few years ago, 15 years ago, but they reported that about 20% of 9 to 14-year-olds were not eating breakfast, and almost 40% of 14 to 18-year-olds were not eating breakfast.
That's a huge amount.
Exactly. A more recent survey conducted by Kellogg actually surveyed 14,000 U.S. Americans, or adult Americans, and asked them, are you eating breakfast? So half of those 14,000 adults realized it's important to eat breakfast and said they wanted to eat breakfast, but only a third were actually eating breakfast. So this is important because that's 2/3 of people who are not eating breakfast in the morning. They realize it's important and they want to, for the reasons we've already talked about. However, for whatever reason, they're not doing that. So if we can identify, if we can pinpoint why people are not eating breakfast, then we can help them overcome those objections and whatever hindrances there are, because they want to, but for whatever reason, they're not.
So just a third of the population only eat breakfast. And then I know you were asking why. Do we know some of those whys now that only a third of them are eating breakfast?
Yeah, so we've seen that a lot of people don't eat breakfast because they report not being hungry, not having enough time in the morning. Usually they're in a rush and they're just trying to get out the door.
Right.
So it's just too much of a hassle. They don't really know what to eat or what constitutes a healthy breakfast. They don't have any ideas. It's kind of, we get a lot of information from the media and magazines and all this stuff, and we don't really, it's confusing, all this information thrown at us. And some people actually use it as a weight loss method, which we've seen in studies is really not is not a successful way to manage your weight. Individuals who actually restrict their breakfast or opt not to eat breakfast typically overcompensate later in the day, eating more, so they actually end up gaining weight. And as Sloan had mentioned, you have some spikes in your blood sugar levels, which can influence your hunger and satiety and things like that. So instead, eating a breakfast with protein, fiber, carbohydrates, all that good stuff, keeping you full will help keep you full throughout the day as well, and actually can possibly lead to weight loss or weight maintenance.
True, you're absolutely right, and that should be something that encourages people to keep in mind. Okay, so my last question is, of course, eating breakfast is important, but is the act of eating breakfast more important than what you actually choose to eat?
So I think eating something is better than nothing. Definitely in moderation. If you decide to consume 2,000 calories at breakfast alone, that'll work more against you than for you.
Right.
However, a lot of people are not consuming breakfast simply because they don't know how to comprise their plate. So what we tell clients is you want to have high quality carbohydrates, healthy fats, and lean protein. And what I mean by high quality carbohydrates are foods such as whole grains. So you can find that in oats and 100% whole wheat bread, even English muffins.
True.
You can also get slow digesting carbohydrates from things such as yams, or even some fruits such as apples and pears that have that fiber in their skin.
Right.
And fiber is important simply because, one, it helps with weight management, so it helps you stay fuller longer. It also has been shown to decrease blood cholesterol levels, your chance of getting heart disease. It's very, very beneficial. And on top of the carbohydrates, you also want to pair that with a lean protein such as beans, and a common one for breakfast is eggs.
Yes.
And then in addition, it's important to consume healthy fats such as avocados, olive oil, which you can saute vegetables in for a scramble or an omelet, or even chia or flax, which you can put into your oats or even smoothies.
Excellent.
Yes.
Wow. All that sounds so delicious, and it's making me really, really hungry. And so I'm excited because don't go away. We're going to be right back because the ladies are going to show us a couple recipes that are going to be perfect for breakfast. And so we're going to go there, and they're going to tell us. Could you tell us really quickly the names of the recipes that you're going to be making?
We're going to be making a veggie loaded scramble.
Ooh, yeah.
And we're also going to be making an overnight oatmeal recipe that's really convenient and delicious.
I love those overnight oats. Those are
too.
so helpful, so nutritious, and so yummy. So the ladies are going to show us how to do that. So stay right where you are. Don't go away. We're going into the kitchen.
Building on our topic about building a better breakfast, we have a couple recipes that we want to demonstrate for you here today. And I just want to share a little bit about my personal experience. I'm a mother of 3 and a graduate student right now, so life is really busy, and I can totally relate to those people that just feel like they don't have time for breakfast. So the recipes that we're going to show you today are convenient, they're inexpensive, and they're things that you can keep in the fridge or in the freezer so you can grab on the go. So first we're going to demonstrate something called overnight oats. Particularly it's an overnight vanilla berry oats recipe. So we have Cassie here holding our instant oatmeal. We have a 1.5 cups of instant oatmeal, and this is really a great fiber-rich staple to keep in your pantry. And then we're going to add to this 1 cup of Greek yogurt.
Yeah. I'm gonna steal this. Okay. So this is our pre-measured
Yes.
Greek yogurt.
And this is an excellent source of calcium and protein, and it's also full of probiotics. So this is really great for a healthy gut. And the cool thing about mixing this with our oats is that the oats have fiber, and so it'll feed all of those healthy, beneficial bacteria and keep everything going really well for us. And then we also have about 1.5 cups of almond milk. And we chose almond milk just since we already had another dairy source, and this kind of keeps the calories lower. And it's also really rich in calcium. And then we have 1.5 cups of frozen mixed berries. Here we just have a mixture of blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries.
It smells so good already.
And this adds so much flavor. It's really delicious.
And beautiful color too.
Yes, lots of antioxidants, and you're kind of covering a lot of your fruit bases early on in the morning by adding this to your oatmeal.
That looks delicious.
And then we also add to this 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. And chia seeds are excellent because they're rich in the omega-3 fatty acid ALA. And we know that when we eat omega-3 fatty acids that they're really great for squelching inflammation in the body. So, and I believe the only other things we need for this are cinnamon. And we also put in a tablespoon of maple syrup just to add a little bit of sweetness. However, you're welcome to substitute this for maybe like a liquid stevia or a sugar alcohol like erythritol.
Or even honey would be really good.
Honey would be great. Yeah.
And if you're there's also, you can use like really ripe bananas serve as a great addition for sweetness for people who may not like berries. You can add, peaches or things like that. And the chia seeds, I find, give them a really nice texture. It thickens it really nice. So right now you have something that's a little bit more watery, but as it sits overnight, the chia seeds will give it a nice kind of almost gelatinous, I guess, right? Effect.
Really thick.
Right.
Like
And you want to let this sit for at least 30 minutes, but preferably overnight. And the great thing about this, what I like to do, and my classmates here have probably seen me do this before, but I'll put it in mason jars, and then I can just grab it and run out the door with it and have it in class or whenever I get the time. So I think now we're going to move on to what's
the serving that we made really quickly, this is a larger serving, right? Something you'd 2 or 3 servings?
I would say you could get at least 2 to 3 servings out of this.
And when it's done, as it sits overnight, Bailey was saying,
like this.
Yes.
So this one looks a little bit layered. So you have some berries, and then you have your overnight oats, and then some more berries, and then more overnight oats. So you can kind of get like a pretty little mason jar going, and then as you can tell, it's a lot. So you can use that.
It thickens up really nicely, so they can help keep you full throughout the day. And Bailey, I was going to ask, for people who may not want to use Greek yogurt, what other alternatives are there? Like myself, I don't do dairy, or people who are lactose intolerant. What can they do for protein instead of the Greek yogurt, for example?
Well, some great options would be something like a vegetarian protein powder, or you could do things like peanut butter. I'm trying to think.
Those are things that I do too. And you can also put in with, if you have a nut butter, for example, you can add in a little unsweetened cocoa powder, so it gives kind of like a chocolate peanut buttery kind of flavor if you want as well.
Yes, that's what I love about this recipe the most. I kind of use it as a base, but then I add other things to it. In the fall, I'll add pureed pumpkin, or sometimes in the summer I'll add mango. I mean, really, you can make it whatever you want it to be, and so it's always something new. You can continue to mix it up.
Very versatile and also inexpensive. A lot of these ingredients that we're using, the quick oats are really very inexpensive. Nut butters aren't too expensive. You can buy these things in bulk, even at some grocery stores, and prepare them. And this is something you can do as a mother, lay out Tupperware, and before the week even starts, and then just add in your liquids, put them in the fridge, and they're ready to go for work, your meetings, or lunches, right?
And they're great for kids as well.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
my
kids love
smaller ones. Just grab and go.
Awesome.
And I love using like cashew milk with these, and also you can add different extracts. So we use vanilla extract in this one, but if you wanted to do maybe something like Christmas, you can do like a peppermint and add cocoa, like a peppermint bark kind of.
Oh, yummy.
Like,
I've never even tried that.
Yeah, or like almond extract, things like that.
Cool.
Yes. And now I think we're going to move on to our veggie loaded Southwest scramble. So Cassie is going to pour about a tablespoon of oil into our pan here.
Do you want me to start with
And so this is also an area where you want to focus on making a healthy oil choice. Usually I like to use an oil that's rich in monounsaturated fats. So I chose an olive oil here, but it's not an extra virgin olive oil. You want to find something that can tolerate heat. And we're going to add to that some chopped onion. And we also have 2 cloves of garlic in here that have been chopped, as well as 1 whole chopped bell pepper. I have 2 halves in here of a red and yellow bell pepper.
And these colors look amazing.
The rainbow, right? They always say
That's right, eat the rainbow. Yes. And so we're going to saute these for about maybe 10 to 12 minutes when you have the time at home. And then you're going to add in our black beans, which are an excellent source of protein and fiber.
So I don't think most people think of beans for breakfast. They typically think your sausage and bacon and things like that. So you can use beans as an adequate source of protein.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yes. And then we also have our sweet potato that we're going to add, and this is a great source of vitamin A. So you're kind of covering a lot of bases just in your very first meal of the day.
And it's a slow digesting carb, so that will be just a great addition for you to add to your meals.
And that sweet potato, Bailey, is that pre-cooked or you put it in raw?
So for the sweet potato, I like to bake mine, and I just put it in little cubes and roast it for about 30 minutes or so. However, if you don't have the time for that, you're welcome to just put it in the microwave and cut it up after it's already softened. So that makes it a little bit faster. And then we're going to add in our spinach, and this will just cook until it wilts down.
Okay. So the great thing about this recipe is that you can really use anything that's in your kitchen. So I mean, we've used the ingredients shown here, but you can just use anything you have, any vegetables that you and your family like to eat, anything you have on hand. And also just a cheaper way, if vegetables are out of season, you can buy them frozen. A lot of people are a little bit hesitant to buy frozen vegetables, but they're actually picked at the peak of their season and then frozen right thereafter. So they retain all those nutrients that you want. So sometimes it's even more beneficial to be getting the frozen vegetables that are out of season frozen instead of fresh. But regardless, adding any kind of vegetables, fruits, fiber into your diet is going to be very beneficial.
So for something like this, you could toss in zucchini or broccoli if you have that at home.
Yeah.
Cauliflower even.
Right, and like Jasmine was saying, you know, if you find a package of frozen peppers and onions, you could totally eliminate, you know, all of the chopping in this recipe. So this can be a really quick and convenient recipe too.
And they're not too expensive either.
Oh,
right?
no, not at all.
Very cool.
And so something else we need to do, we need to start whisking our eggs. This recipe calls for a dozen eggs. And after we have cooked down all of this vegetable mixture, we're going to add it to this bowl.
That's good.
So Bailey, these eggs we've included the yolk, right?
Yes, we did.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the benefits of eggs, and should we include the yolk, should we not?
So this has kind of been an issue of controversy over the past several decades. And, you know, I think it was previously believed that since eggs are high in cholesterol, that would raise our cholesterol. But what we're finding now is that that's really not true for most of the population. So for the most part, eggs can be a great source of nutrients like choline, leucine, even vitamin A. So we choose to leave them in. We actually think that there's some benefits here that you can be getting. So yeah, I would say go for the whole egg, but if you want something that's more convenient, you could absolutely pick up something like egg beaters, or if you want an alternative not vegetarian, but a vegan protein source, or if you're sensitive to eggs, you could just use like a firm tofu or something and turn it into a tofu scramble. And I've done that before, and it tastes exactly the same.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Something else we're going to add to this is our seasoning mix. So here we have 1.5 tablespoons of chili powder, 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika, 1/4 teaspoon of oregano, and I think about a teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of cumin. And this gives it its really great Southwest flair.
You can just smell that paprika. You can smell those spices. It's kind of bringing the eggs to life a bit.
And something I wanted to add too is you can also mix up the ratio. So to get that yolk but if you're also aware of how many calories you're consuming, you can pair 2 whole eggs with 3 egg whites. That way you're making it more bulky, but you're only getting about 2 yolks.
Right. And I believe we have this already prepared for people who would like to try this. Jasmine, would you mind grabbing the prepared samples? So something that I like to do with this scramble is I will either keep it in the fridge to eat on its own, or sometimes I freeze it inside of burritos or inside of tortillas, you know, just to have for a quick burrito, and then you can pop it in the microwave and it's ready to go.
So you would actually just lay out the tortillas, put in this filling once this is all done, wrap them up, and then pop them in the freezer.
Yes,
Awesome.
so it's a really great grab and go breakfast.
Easy, convenient. It's just like something you would get at McDonald's or some of those fast food places that have the breakfast burritos, but much more nutrient dense.
Right.
Healthier alternative.
Exactly. lowering
Absolutely.
calories.
And you've controlled, you know, your sodium because you've used your own seasoning mix.
Right.
You've added in so many different antioxidants with just the varied spices that you've added in. We have all of our veggies here and, you know, all of the fiber. We've covered all of those bases that we were discussing on the couch. So, yes.
And this is also a breakfast, so it can be fast, convenient, inexpensive, but it's also, I mean, if you look at the spread, it's beautiful. This is something I would make this at home and host maybe a breakfast brunch party or something
Right,
like
right.
that, you know?
Definitely.
So we have our sweet breakfast, we have something savory, really. You could also put this inside of maybe like a wheat sandwich, right? Like a breakfast sandwich.
Or English muffin,
English-
like
exactly.
any kind of portable, you know, whole wheat, 100% whole wheat, wrap, bread,
Exactly.
everything.
Ladies, this is looking amazing.
The smells enticed you over?
Yes, the smell called me over. Oh my. I've been hungry ever since we've been talking about breakfast. So, can I try some?
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. I feel like
pass them down?
I've arrived at a restaurant. Yeah.
That is the scramble. Here you go.
You know, I'm usually not the type that will
You're
have
welcome.
beans at breakfast, but hey, why not?
I don't think most people think of it as something that you can incorporate into your breakfast, but it's great flavor, right?
Oh my. Yes. Keep talking because I can't right now.
It's delicious, right?
I love that Southwest flair.
And can you smell the aroma like as you're eating it?
I think people often think that healthy foods aren't as flavorful or they're kind
Right.
of boring, but you can see
Exactly.
this is, everything here is appealing to the eye. It's beautiful and very flavorful, actually.
Mucho flavorful. So I think people will be so happy to make this because it's not hard.
No.
But as you said, it looks great. But then when you eat it, it's pleasurable.
Yes.
Right, right.
Yeah, you don't need to sacrifice flavor when you're eating healthy foods.
Certainly
Not at all.
No. And that's what we want to let others know. Is that when you eat well, it doesn't mean bland. It doesn't mean eating something that tastes like styrofoam, eating like air. It's nothing like that. It's flavor, but yet it's good for you. And I love how this recipe especially is so balanced.
Yes.
This is a full meal in and of itself.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies, so much for all the information you shared with us today. And I love the recipes that you've shared, and hopefully the viewers will also make this. You will be able to find it on our website. And so in order to live well, remember, you also have to eat well.